Hello, this video is on shoe tying. I had made an earlier video on this topic, but really wanted to simplify a few things and clarify a little bit. So hopefully this may be a little bit more helpful. I'm going to go over an adapted way to tie it first, and then kind of the more traditional approach. The thing to remember is that there's a lot of multiple steps in this process, and there's some different perceptual pieces. So around with the laces, where to poke through. So we'll be breaking this down into small steps, and that's also really handy when we're working with our child, is not to demonstrate it all at once, but really work on one step mastered, then moving on as needed, and really helping understand all the pieces of it. It'll take a lot of repetition until we get it smooth, and that's okay. However, before we get started, another thing to keep in mind as well is that if you've been fighting shoe tying for a long time, and if you just find it's not where your child is developmentally yet, or if it's just not a battle you're ready to fight at this point, or maybe your child's mastered it, but they're kind of, when you're not supervising, they come untied and your child isn't invested in working around with laces, there's a lot of good elastic laces options that you can put in any shoe, like Lock Lace on Amazon. Also, something lesser known, if you don't like the elastic laces, is a company called Grieper Laces in the UK. It's typical shoelace material. It was made for runners because they wanted to make it a quick way to adjust your shoe as needed while you're running without stopping and doing all the steps. And once you have it set up in your shoe, all you have to do is really pull to tighten as needed and it'll stay. It's called Grieper Laces. They're kind of cool. I'll put a link below. So there's options out there. I don't want you to feel stuck with Velcro or types of shoes that aren't so fashionable if you want to have laces options. So let's start with the adapted technique. The first step is really important. We're going to make an X. Then the next thing is over, under. X, over, and under. First thing to learn. The reason we want to make sure we go over is that if we just say under, our students might kind of look of how I can poke this lace under here, and we end up with an X again. It didn't make that twist we wanted. So really we want to make sure that one of these laces goes over. If you're right-handed, likely the lace in the back is going to be the one that we go to. So if you're finding your child having trouble or sort of awkward movements, maybe try using the lace in the back for the over and under. But the main thing, the main cue is understanding, again, over and under. The next step for our kind of handy adapted way to do this is looking for some holes in our shoe. So if you have an extra one up here, great. It's nice and easy, but you can also share the hole with the top one here. So I'm going to take the end of my lace here and poke it into that hole. I'm going to poke it in nice and far. Since I have fairly long laces, I'm going to go halfway because when I do this technique, I don't want it to come loose. So you can see here, I poked it in quite a ways. And do the same thing on the other side. And what we're left with is two lovely loops ready to go. The best thing about this adapted technique is once we have these loops made, by poking in our laces, all we have to do is make an X, go over and under. The same thing we did at the very beginning. We're going to pull out our ends. And we may notice, oh, it's maybe not as tight as we want. Double knotting is a really important thing for our new shoe learners to learn because of this. You know, obviously they're going to have loose, more flimsy ties as they're getting started. And another piece of good news, double knotting is the same as everything else. We make an X, go over and under, and voila, we have a double knot. So it's an easy way to kind of break it down a little bit and cut down on the amount of steps and techniques we have to learn for shoe tying. Now let's go to a more traditional way of shoe tying. It starts the same. X, over and under. If you're right-handed, you may likely come from the back lace. What we want to do once we have that step down is have our kids feel what we made here. So this little twist, you can call it a twist or a rope. The reason that's important is that with our kind of our traditional step, that's where we want to make our loop. So if we go to make a loop next from the end, obviously it's too far away, sort of flimsy. We need to come right from that twist, pick up right there, and pinch by that twist to make a loop. So more traditional way is we take our other string as we're pinching here, go around, so towards our stomach can kind of be our cue, so around, and only go once, and then I usually have students drop it when they're first learning. The reason being, now we can look for the hole we're going to go through. We can poke our finger through. Finding that hole is important. Okay, so that's what we're going to go through next. So around, drop it, find our hole. Next, we're going to poke the top of our lace through. So if we go to the bottom where this point is and we try to poke it through, that's not going to work, obviously. So we want to emphasize the concept of top versus bottom. So the top of our lace we find, or middle, top to middle here, and poke that through the hole. So I take my finger, push it. Now we have to switch hands a little bit and pull our loops. That takes some skill to grade it, because if we go too fast, too hard, it often comes loose. Sometimes we have to adjust as we go, and that sort of comes with the maturity and experience of doing this a few times. Double knotting is the same, X, over and under. Let me show you another more traditional shoe tying way in case it's helpful. I'm going to whip through the first step since we've gone through it a few times. X, over and under, pull. Next, we're going to make our loop, again, feeling for that twist here and pinching right at the bottom. That's where we want our loop to be. We're going to make one, and then we're going to do the same thing with our other hand. So if you're right-handed with your left hand. So we have two loops now, pinched right at the twist. This takes some more hand manipulation skill, but less of the perceptual pieces. We're going to do the X over and under again with loops. So X, over, and under. Here it is. And then to double knot, same thing, X over and under. Hopefully this is helpful, and let me know if you're having any issues or questions. Thank you.